Not the peaceful kind people talked about in books, but a heavy, unmoving silence that pressed against his chest the moment he opened his eyes. It was always there before thought arrived, before memory, before identity fully assembled itself again. A blank pause, and then the familiar weight returned. The ceiling above his bed was cracked, the same thin fracture running diagonally like a scar that refused to heal. He had stared at it for years. Sometimes he imagined the crack widening, the entire ceiling collapsing, and wondered whether he would feel relief or fear in that moment. He never reached an answer. Elias lived alone in a small apartment on the edge of the city. It wasn't poor, but it wasn't comfortable either. Everything in it felt temporary, the furniture, the curtains, even the air, as if none of it truly belonged to him. He had moved here 5 years ago with the vague idea that a new place might bring a new feeling. It hadn't. He lay in bed longer than necessary, listening to distant traffic and the faint hum of electricity in the walls. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Notifications, messages, reminders, the world knocking, demanding attention. He ignored it. There was a strange fatigue in Elias that sleep never touched. It wasn't physical. His body functioned well enough. He ate, walked, worked, spoke. But somewhere beneath all that movement, something remained unmoved, untouched by time, untouched by effort. A question, maybe, or an absence of one. When he finally stood up, his reflection in the mirror startled him the way it always did, not because it looked unfamiliar, but because it looked too familiar. The same eyes, the same expression, alert but distant, as if he were constantly watching something just behind himself. "Is this it?" he whispered one morning without realizing he had spoken aloud. The reflection did not answer. Elias worked as a data analyst for a logistics company. Numbers, patterns, predictions. His job was to reduce uncertainty, to transform chaos into something manageable. His colleagues respected him, his boss trusted him. By all external measures, his life was stable. Yet every time he sat at his desk, staring at glowing screens filled with graphs and charts, a quiet thought arose. None of this is touching me. He performed his tasks efficiently, but without attachment. Praise slid off him. Criticism failed to wound him deeply. He was present, yet absent, engaged, yet hollow. During lunch breaks, his coworkers discussed plans, relationships, ambitions. Elias listened, nodded, smiled when appropriate. Inside, something watched these conversations with mild curiosity, as if they belonged to another species. Once, a colleague named Marcus asked him, half-jokingly, "Man, don't you ever get excited about anything?" Elias paused, fork suspended in midair. "I don't know," he said truthfully. "I think I used to." Marcus laughed and shook his head. "You're weird." Elias smiled back. The word didn't offend him. If anything, it felt accurate. At night, the restlessness grew stronger. He would sit by the window, lights off, watching the city breathe. Cars moved like glowing veins. Windows flickered on and off. Lives unfolded invisibly behind walls. He often wondered whether everyone felt this same quiet dissatisfaction, or whether something in him was misaligned. He tried to name the feeling. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't fear. It wasn't depression, not exactly. It was more like standing in a room where something essential had been removed, but no one could remember what it was. To cope, Elias began searching. At first casually, books recommended by friends, podcasts, articles, then more obsessively, philosophy, psychology, spirituality, neuroscience. He wanted an explanation, a diagnosis, a framework. Each promised clarity, none delivered it. Some said meaning was created. Some said it was discovered. Some said it was an illusion altogether. Late at night, surrounded by open books and glowing screens, Elias felt the same quiet frustration repeating itself like an echo. These are all descriptions. Where is the thing itself? One evening, he stumbled across a short sentence in an old book he had picked up secondhand. The page was yellowed, the margins filled with someone else's handwriting. The sentence read, "Truth is not something you understand. It is something you stop resisting." Elias stared at it for a long time. Something in his chest tightened, not painfully, but with recognition, as if the sentence had pointed not outward, but directly at him. "What am I resisting?" he asked the empty room. Again, no answer, but the question lingered. Over the following weeks, Elias began noticing small disruptions in his routine, moments where thought seemed to falter. It happened once while washing his hands. For a brief second, the sound of running water became unusually vivid, not louder, closer. The sensation of water on skin, the reflection of light, the simple fact of standing there, it all felt strangely complete. Then thought returned, labeling the moment, and the feeling vanished. Another time, walking home from work, he stopped mid-step. A sudden awareness flooded in, the feeling of weight shifting, muscles balancing, air entering his lungs. No commentary, no narrative, just happening. It lasted less than a second, yet it disturbed him more than any book ever had. He began to suspect that whatever he was searching for was not hidden in complexity, but in something terrifyingly simple. Elias tried meditation next, not because he believed in it, but because he had run out of better ideas. He sat on the floor of his apartment, back against the wall, eyes closed. At first, his mind revolted violently. Thoughts multiplied, memories surfaced, worries screamed for attention. He almost quit, but something made him stay. He wasn't trying to achieve peace. He wasn't chasing enlightenment. He was simply curious. What happens if I don't follow the next thought? Minutes passed, or hours. Time behaved strangely. Then, without warning, a gap appeared. Not silence exactly, more like a pause between waves. In that gap, there was no problem, no identity, no effort. Elias felt panic rise immediately. "I'm disappearing," a thought screamed. And just like that, the gap closed. He opened his eyes, heart racing, breath shallow. The room looked the same. He looked the same. Yet something fundamental had shifted. He had glimpsed something, and it had frightened him. That night, Elias dreamed he was standing in an endless white space. No walls, no floor, no sky. A voice, not internal, not external, spoke without sound. "You are looking for yourself in the wrong direction." He woke up sweating. For the first time in years, he didn't reach for his phone. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, and whispered, "If that's true, then where should I look?" The silence that followed was not empty. It was waiting.